This is an overview of the college applications dashboard, which you can use to compare different universities and see how they correlate with different attributes that you are usually interested in when you are considering where to apply and also which spots to accept. If you work in education, you might also be interested in seeing how your institution compares to others. So the first graph here is basically a map that shows you what the average tuition is in the various states. If you go down here, you'll see the control bars, which I will come back to later. You can use different filters. But I want to talk about these scatter plots that allows you to look at tuition rates compared to different variables, such as rank, endowments, grants, and also value. And value is a metric that was developed by Professor Galloway at NYU, and it is it's a score that is the product of credentials and students' report of satisfaction with the institution and also educational outcome. And you can see that score here on the x-axis together with the average tuition and fees on the y-axis. If you go to the and if you go over any of these dots, you'll see the individual universities. You can decide to click on it, and then only that university will come up. You can go down here and look at Jeff Solingo's sellers and buyers formula, which is based on the percentage of institutional aid given without respect to financial needs and admitted students who choose to actually enroll in those institutions. And what it is, it's a sort of a rough idea on which universities are willing to negotiate with the students. It's considered that if a student is in sort of a buyer's position, the student might have a little bit more of a bargaining power than if they are more in a seller's positions, like these elite universities over here, which it's much harder to get extra financial help or extra accommodation from these places. You can see how this correlates with states. So if you want to study in California or on the East Coast, you're likely to pay a little bit more and also not get as much scholarships perhaps or other types of grants. But then if you, for example, go to Utah or Alabama or some of these places. So the controls, again, you can adjust to the various conditions that you have here. So right now, obviously, there's a lot of schools that are test optional. But by filtering for specific scores, let's say that you did take the ACT test and you did take the SAT test, and you wanted to see if it's worthwhile sending it into the school, because sometimes it can help you get scholarships, etc. You can use that as a filter, and then you can look at the scatter plots based on that. So that can give you an idea on which institutions might look favorably at those scores. You can also you can filter by state, and you can also look at individual institutions. You can search for them, or you could just see them on the drop-down list. So if I go into this one, I will get information just on this particular institution. You will see it here in the upper ranks of the tuition and the different scores, etc. And you can also look at this value to cost ratio, which is the value parameter or score that I just told you about. And then you take that and you divide that with tuitions. And if those two scores are perfectly aligned, you will have a 1. And if it's less than 1, it means that you might be paying a little bit too much. If it's more than 1, you are getting quite a bit of value from that institution. So the gray bar here is pretty long. And if you go all the way down here, you'll see the sources. If you have a data set and you can think of a data set that you would like me to include to this dashboard, please reach out to me and I will see what I can do.